I'm not really the kind of guy who spills his guts on the internet, but I'm in such a messed up situation right now. I just don't know what to do. I'm hoping that by writing this out, maybe someone out there can offer some advice, or at least help me make sense of everything. So here goes. I'm 36. Been married to my wife, Kelly. She's 30 for almost 5 years. We met when she was still in college, and I was just starting to make a name for myself in construction. I'm not talking about swinging a hammer on someone's roof. I'm a project manager for a big construction firm. Lately, I've been working on this high-rise project that's supposed to be a game-changer for my career. But with the economy the way it is, and fewer clients willing to take on big risks, things have been slower than usual. I'm busting my ass trying to find new clients, but it's been tough, and honestly, it's been weighing on me a lot. Now Kelly, she's always been the smart one in our relationship. She's got a degree in psychology and works at this psychologist agency. When we first got together, we were inseparable. Best friends, lovers, everything you could want in a partner. We always understood each other. We had this rhythm, you know? We shared everything, our thoughts, our fears, our dreams, and we built our marriage on that foundation of trust and openness. But that foundation has been cracking lately, and I'm scared it's about to collapse completely. I'll be the first to admit I haven't been the best husband lately. Work's been consuming me, and I've been so focused on landing new clients that I've started bringing the stress home. I'm not as present as I used to be, and I guess that's where the trouble started. At first, Kelly was supportive. She'd talk me down when I was stressed, remind me that I was good at what I do and that things would turn around. But as time went on, she started pulling away. She got quieter, more distant. It's like there was this wall between us, and no matter what I did, I couldn't break through. The worst part is, Kelly knows about relationships. It's literally her job to help other people sort out their problems. But here we are, unable to fix our own. It didn't help that she has this friend Amanda, who's always had a shitty opinion of me. Amanda's single, bitter, and has been whispering crap in Kelly's ear for years. I tried to ignore it, but I can't help but feel like she's been planting doubts in Kelly's head. Doubts that have grown into full-blown suspicion. Kelly started accusing me of cheating, saying I was working late to meet someone else, that I was distracted because I'd found someone new. The truth is, I was just drowning in my own stress and barely keeping my head above water. After one of our worst fights yet, Kelly suggested we see a psychologist, someone she knew from work. She said it might help us sort things out, get an outside perspective. I didn't love the idea, but I agreed because honestly, I'd do anything to save our marriage. I've never been the kind of guy who believes in therapy, probably because I've always thought we could fix things ourselves. But I was desperate, so I went along with it. The psychologist she set us up with was this guy named Jordan Bingen. I'd met him once or twice when I picked Kelly up from work, but I didn't know him well. The session started out okay, I guess. Jordan asked us to talk about what was going on, so I laid it all out. I told him about the stress at work, how I've been so focused on finding new clients that I've probably neglected Kelly more than I should have. I was honest. I told him I wasn't cheating, that I'd never do that to her. I just needed her to understand that I was going through a rough patch and that I needed her support, not her suspicion. When it was Kelly's turn, she said she felt like I was hiding something from her, that I wasn't the same man she married. She kept harping on this idea that I was having an affair, which is complete bullshit. I thought Jordan would see that. He's supposed to be the objective one, right? But after hearing both of us out, he came to this conclusion that really rubbed me the wrong way. He said that, in this case, I wasn't entirely in the right. He talked about how my focus on work was driving a wedge between us and that Kelly had every right to feel insecure. He even suggested that maybe I was subconsciously pulling away from Kelly because of some unresolved issues on my end. I'm not gonna lie, hearing that pissed me off. How the hell did this guy come to the conclusion that I'm the one who's wrong here? I mean, sure, I've been stressed and yeah, maybe I haven't been as attentive as I used to be, but that doesn't mean I'm cheating, and it sure as hell doesn't mean Kelly's suspicions are justified. But Jordan kept talking like he knew what was going on in my head better than I did, and it just didn't sit right with me. Something about the whole thing felt off. After the session, I couldn't shake this feeling that there was more to it. Kelly was acting weird too. Normally, after we do something like this, we'd talk about it, go over what was said, figure out where we stood. But that night, she didn't say a word about the session. It was like it never happened. She was distant, distracted, and glued to her phone. I asked her if she wanted to talk about it, but she just shrugged and said she was tired. So I dropped it, but the unease wouldn't go away. Later that night, as we were getting ready for bed, I noticed Kelly was on her phone again, smiling at something. I tried to brush it off. Maybe she was just texting Amanda or scrolling through social media, but the suspicion gnawed at me. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I waited until she went to shower, and then I grabbed her phone. I knew her passcode, so I unlocked it and started scrolling through her messages. Most of it was harmless. Texts with friends, work stuff, until I saw a message from someone named JB. The message was short, just a heart emoji, but it made my blood run cold. JB, Jordan Bingen. It had to be. And if that wasn't enough to set off alarm bells, the fact that the message was hidden away under a nickname with a heart emoji definitely did. I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity, my mind racing. Was this why Kelly suggested we see him? Had she been talking to him behind my back this whole time? And what the hell was that heart supposed to mean? When Kelly came back from the shower, I'd already put her phone back where I found it. She didn't seem to notice anything was off, but I couldn't shake the feeling that my whole world was crumbling around me. I went through the motions, climbed into bed, said goodnight, but I barely slept a wink. My mind kept replaying the session, Jordan's conclusions and message. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that this whole thing, the therapy, the accusations, the distance, wasn't just about me being busy with work. It was about something much bigger, something I couldn't quite put my finger on yet. So here I am, pouring my heart out to a bunch of strangers on the internet because I don't know what else to do. Part of me wants to confront Kelly, but I'm terrified of what she might say. What if I'm right? What if she's been cheating on me with the very guy who's supposed to be helping us fix our marriage? And if I'm wrong, well, I'm not sure I could handle that either. I don't know how to move forward from this. I want to believe that Kelly and I can still work things out, that we can get back to the way we were before all this started. But that trust we built our marriage on, it feels like it's slipping through my fingers, and I'm not sure how to hold on to it. I guess I'm just hoping that someone out there has been through something like this and can tell me what the hell I'm supposed to do next. After I posted on Reddit about what was happening in my marriage, the outpouring of support was overwhelming. I didn't expect so many people to relate to my situation, let alone offer advice that actually made sense. But reading those comments, I started to realize just how deep in denial I'd been. People kept telling me to trust my gut, that the signs were all there. They reminded me that sometimes the truth is right in front of you, even if you don't want to see it. And they were right. If I wanted any kind of closure, if I wanted to keep my sanity, I needed to find out the truth once and for all. I knew I couldn't keep going like this. The suspicion was eating me alive, and I had to know for sure if Kelly was cheating on me, especially with the person we were supposed to be getting help from. It was a twisted situation, one that felt like it was pulled straight out of a bad soap opera. But it was my life, and I had to take control of it. The night after I posted, while Kelly was in the shower, I went through her phone again. I know, it's not something I'm proud of, but I needed to protect myself. I found the message from JB again, the one with the heart emoji, and I snapped a photo of it with my own phone. My hands were shaking the whole time and my stomach was in knots. But I knew this was the first step. If this went where I thought it was going, I was going to need all the proof I could get. I couldn't let her gaslight me or twist the narrative once I confronted her. The next day, I decided to take things a step further. I told Kelly that I wanted to see Jordan for a one-on-one session, that I needed to sort out my own thoughts and figure out why I'd been so distant. She seemed surprised but didn't argue, probably thinking it was a good sign that I was taking therapy seriously. Little did she know, my intentions were far from therapeutic. When I arrived at the psychologist's office, I wasn't expecting to see anyone I knew, so it caught me off guard when I noticed Kelly's friend, Amanda, sitting in the waiting area. She was flipping through a magazine, and she gave me a quick nod as I walked by. I didn't think much of it. After all, she worked in the same field, and it wasn't unusual for her to be around. Still, Something about her presence made me uneasy. I shook it off and headed to Jordan's office. The session started off normally enough. Jordan asked me how I was doing, how things were at home, the usual stuff. I answered as best I could, trying to keep up the act that I was there to work on myself. But my mind was elsewhere, focused on the message I'd found, and the suspicion that was gnawing at me. About halfway through the session, I couldn't take it anymore. I interrupted Jordan mid-sentence, acting like I was confused by something he said. "Sorry, Jordan," I cut him off, leaning forward in my chair. "There's something I don't quite understand. Maybe you can help me with this." He looked a little startled but nodded for me to go ahead. I pulled out my phone and brought up the photo I'd taken of Kelly's message. I held it up for him to see. "Can you explain this?" I asked, my voice calm but cold. Jordan's eyes flicked to the screen for a split second before he composed himself. He gave me a confused look, the kind you'd expect from someone who's just been asked to solve a riddle they didn't know existed. "What am I supposed to be looking at?" he asked, playing dumb. I felt a surge of anger rise in my chest. The fact that he was pretending not to know infuriated me. I pushed the phone closer to his face. "This message from JB. The heart emoji. It's from my wife's phone. JB, Jordan Bingen. I think it's pretty clear who that is." Jordan leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. He didn't seem flustered, which only made me more suspicious. "Look," he said, sighing like he was explaining something obvious to a child. "That could be anyone. Lots of people have those initials. And a heart emoji? That's just common, especially between friends or colleagues. It doesn't mean anything." His calm demeanor, the way he brushed off the evidence, only made me angrier. It was like he thought I was too stupid to see through his lies. But I knew better. I'd seen enough, heard enough, to know that something was going on between him and Kelly. "You expect me to believe that?" I snapped, my voice rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. "That this is just some coincidence? My wife is getting messages from you, or someone with your initials at least, and you're telling me it's nothing." Jordan held up his hands in a placating gesture. "I'm just saying that you shouldn't jump to conclusions. Misunderstandings like this can cause a lot of unnecessary pain. You need to talk to Kelly, not make accusations based on something that could be totally innocent." But I wasn't buying it. The way he was talking, the way he was trying to steer the conversation away from the facts, it all reeked of deceit. I knew in my gut that he was lying, that there was more to this story than he was letting on. As we argued, the door to the office opened a crack, and I caught a glimpse of someone standing outside. It was Amanda, Kelly's friend. She must have heard my voice and decided to stick around. I saw her hovering in the doorway, probably listening to every word. I didn't care at that point. If anything, it confirmed that something was seriously wrong. Amanda knew about this too, didn't she? She had to. Why else would she be there, lurking in the hallway? Jordan noticed her too, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of panic in his eyes. He glanced at the door, then back at me, his calm facade starting to crack. I realized then that he was worried. Not about me, but about Amanda overhearing our conversation. And that's when it all started to fall into place. "Is this what you do, Jordan?" I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Do you help your patients by getting involved with them? Is that part of your therapy?" He stiffened, but before he could answer, Amanda stepped into the room. She looked at me, then at Jordan, her expression a mix of surprise and concern. "I think we need to talk," she said, her voice low but firm. Jordan looked like he wanted to protest, but Amanda wasn't giving him a choice. She turned to me and nodded toward the hallway. "Let's go somewhere more private," she suggested, her eyes flicking back to Jordan with a hint of contempt. I stood up, feeling a strange mix of relief and dread. Whatever was going on, I was about to find out, and I had a feeling that once I did, there'd be no going back. Jordan was cornered, and he knew it. His usually calm, collected demeanor had shattered the moment Amanda's presence registered. He thought he had control over the situation, that he could keep his secrets hidden behind a mask of professionalism, but the fear in his eyes gave him away. "You're scared," I said, my voice steady but filled with contempt. "And it's not because of me. You're scared because you saw Amanda out there, and now you're worried she heard everything. Why would that bother you, Jordan? What are you so afraid she'll find out?" He looked like a deer caught in headlights. For a moment I thought he might try to deny it, to spin another web of lies. But instead, he just sat there, the weight of the situation pressing down on him like a ton of bricks. His silence was all the confirmation I needed. "Yeah, I thought so," I muttered, standing up. I didn't bother waiting for him to respond. There was nothing more to say. He was caught, and I wasn't about to waste another second in that room. Without a word, I turned and walked out, leaving him to sit in his own mess. As I made my way down the hallway, I half expected Amanda to be standing there, waiting to confront me, but she was gone. Maybe she'd already left, or maybe she was hiding somewhere, trying to process what she'd overheard. Either way, I didn't care. I was done with this place, done with the lies and deceit. I just wanted to get home and confront Kelly with everything I'd learned. The drive home felt like it took forever. My mind was racing, replaying the conversation with Jordan and thinking about how I'd confront Kelly. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to demand answers, but I knew I needed to keep my cool. If I lost my temper, she'd just use it against me, twist things around to make herself the victim. No, I needed to be calm, collected, and most of all firm. There was no coming back from this, and I had to make sure she knew that. I rehearsed what I'd say to her in my head, over and over again. I imagined her denying it, crying, begging for forgiveness. But I knew better than to fall for that. She'd already proven she couldn't be trusted, and I wasn't about to let her manipulate me into giving her another chance. This was the end of the line for us. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Kelly's car parked outside. My heart pounded in my chest as I turned off the engine and sat there for a moment, gathering my thoughts. This was it, the moment of truth. I wasn't sure how she'd react, but I knew I had to be ready for anything. Inside, Kelly was pacing the living room, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. The second she saw me, her eyes narrowed, and I could tell she was spoiling for a fight. "What the hell, Chris?" she snapped before I could even say a word. "Why did you go through my phone? And what the fuck were you doing at Jordan's office?" Her anger took me by surprise. I'd expected guilt, maybe fear, but this was outright hostility. It didn't take a genius to figure out what was going on. She was trying to flip the script, to turn this whole thing around on me. "I should be asking you that," I shot back, my voice cold. "Why'd you lie to me, Kelly? Why'd you hide your little affair with Jordan?" She scoffed, rolling her eyes like I was being ridiculous. "Affair? Are you serious right now? You're paranoid, Chris. I was trying to help our marriage and this is how you repay me? By spying on me?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my anger in check. "Spying on you? Kelly, you're the one who's been sneaking around, sending messages to Jordan of all people. I saw the texts. I know what's going on." Her face flushed, and for a split second I saw a flash of panic in her eyes, but she quickly covered it up with more anger. "Those messages meant nothing. We were just talking, that's all. You're blowing this way out of proportion." "Blowing it out of proportion?" I repeated, incredulous. "Kelly, you've been lying to me for God knows how long, and you expect me to believe it was just talking? Do you think I'm that stupid?" She crossed her arms over her chest, glaring at me. "You're acting like a fucking lunatic, Chris. This is exactly why I wanted us to go to therapy, because you're so obsessed with your work, with your insecurities, that you're seeing problems where there aren't any." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was really going to stand there and try to make this my fault. "Don't turn this around on me," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "This isn't about my work or my insecurities. This is about you betraying me. You knew exactly what you were doing when you set up those sessions with Jordan. You wanted him to take your side, to make me look like the bad guy. But it backfired, didn't it?" For a moment, Kelly just stood there, staring at me, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Finally, she snapped, "I can't believe you're doing this. After everything I've done for you, after all the sacrifices I've made, you're just going to throw it all away because of some stupid texts?" "Don't act like the victim here, Kelly," I shot back. "You've been lying to me, sneaking around behind my back, and now you're trying to make me feel guilty? No. I'm done. This marriage is over." She gasped, like the words had physically hurt her, but I didn't back down. I'd come too far to let her manipulate me now. "Pack your things," I said, my voice icy, "and get out." Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't let it affect me. I couldn't. This was the only way. "Chris, please," she started, her voice trembling. "Let's just talk about this." "No," I cut her off, my tone final. "There's nothing left to talk about. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it. I'll be contacting a lawyer first thing tomorrow. We're getting a divorce." The color drained from her face, and for a moment, I thought she might faint, but she didn't. Instead, she nodded numbly, like she finally understood that this was really happening. Without another word, Kelly turned and headed upstairs. I could hear her opening drawers, shoving clothes into a suitcase. I stood there in the living room, listening to the sound of our life together being packed away, and felt nothing but a cold emptiness. The love we'd once shared was gone, replaced by betrayal and lies. There was no going back now. When she finally came down the stairs, suitcase in hand, she paused at the door. She looked at me, her eyes red and swollen from crying, and for a moment, I thought she might say something, but she didn't. She just turned and walked out, closing the door softly behind her. 2 weeks have passed since that day, and I won't lie, it's been hard. I've replayed our final conversation over and over in my head, wondering if there was something I missed, some sign that things could have been different. But the truth is, it doesn't matter. Kelly made her choices, and I made mine. The divorce papers were signed last week, and just like that, 5 years of marriage were over. It's surreal, really, how quickly everything can fall apart. One moment, you're planning a future together, and the next, you're two strangers dividing up your lives. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's to be careful who you trust. Even the person you think you know better than anyone can turn out to be a stranger. I never thought Kelly would betray me, but she did. And now, all I can do is move on and try to rebuild my life without her. So to anyone reading this, take my advice. Never let your guard down completely. Always be careful, and always trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't ignore the signs, and don't let anyone gaslight you into doubting yourself. At the end of the day, you're the only one who can protect your heart.